Chapter 2, Body Structure, Oncology, and Laboratory Tests. In this chapter, we'll look at the pronunciation of anatomical structures of the human body, define and spell word parts that are related to the structure, the color, oncology, and laboratory tests of the human body. When we look at the body, we start with the basic unit, which is the cell. That's the basic unit of all living things. And then from the cell, we go to uh, combining similar cells that perform a specific function, and those then grouped together become tissue. The next division of the organization becomes the organ, and this is two or more types of body tissue that combine together to create a specific body function. Then the system becomes a group of organs that work together, and with them working together, they can complete a more complex function of the body. So it would be combining different organs. For instance, when you look at the digestive system, there are multiple organs there that are needed to perform the function of digestion. Looking at the types of tissues, we have the muscle tissue, which helps us to produce movement, and then the nervous tissue helps in the coordinating and controlling the body activities. So when you look at the muscle tissue and the nervous tissue together, they would be used to help us coordinate and move our body in general. Connective tissue functions are to connect such as in structures, to support, penetrate, or encase certain body structures as well. Examples of that would be, for instance, adipose tissue, which is fat tissue, um, which has an actual positive purpose and positive function in that it helps to protect, it helps to support the areas around the organs and helps to hold the actual shape. Other structures that we would see in connective tissue are the bone and the blood and the fibrous tissue again, which goes back into the connecting part or the supporting part of their role. Then we have the epithelial tissue. It is the main covering of external uh, surfaces of the body, such as it's the skin, and then it also forms the lining of the inside of the body cavities and also of the organs. So, for instance, the abdominal uh, cavity is going to have a lining of epithelial tissue, and then the organs are going to have linings of epithelial tissues as well. And then it also, as a third function, is the major tissue components of the glands. And we started out with from the organization with the basic unit of which is the cell, and then we took the cells and combined and specified those, and then those become tissue as we combined them. The tissue then formed organs, and then the organs formed um, systems. So that takes us up then to the different body systems and functions of those. So the integumentary system is those that affect everything to do with the skin. The respiratory system, of course, involves all the structures that it's required in breathing. Urinary system involves all of the uh, urinary functions of the body and their structures and how it affects the body in general. And then we have the reproductive system, which is, of course, the beginning of development from a fertilization to actually creating another human being. And cardiovascular, we're looking at the heart plus all the vascular system within the body, which encompasses the whole body. We have the lymphatic system, which affects greatly the immune responses within the body and those effects. The digestive system When we eat and digest and process and move through food through and metabolize that involves all of the digestive system. Musculoskeletal system is our structure, our form, our basically holding together of a body as a whole. Nervous system is integrated into really pretty much every part of the body. And then the endocrine system involves greatly the glandular areas of the body, and those affect, again, the body pretty much as a whole from the basis of the endocrine production. Now we move to the body cavities. First, we'll look at the dorsal cavities. Dorsal refers, generally speaking, to the back side of something. And within that, we have the cranial cavity, which contains the brain, and we have the spinal cavity, which contains the spinal cord. The ventral cavities, ventral meaning front, those will include the thoracic cavity, which the structures that we would see there are the heart and the aorta, the major vessel of the body, lungs, esophagus, trachea, and bronchi, all included within the thoracic cavity. Sometimes we refer that also to as the chest cavity. And then we have the abdominal pelvic cavity. Within the abdominal cavity, we have the stomach and the intestines, the kidneys, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the spleen. So a lot of the structures that relate to those particular areas. And then when the pelvic structures, we have the bladder, the urinary bladder, we have the reproductive structures, we have this part of the small and large intestine, and we have the rectum included within that. So that is kind of looking at it from the frontal view and from the back view. Let's take a look at some body structures combining forms, and this is not a complete list, but just a section of examples from your material. Adeno means gland. Epithelio is epithelium. Fibro is fiber. Hemato is blood, and you find other word parts and combining forms that will also mean blood. Sarco is flesh or connective tissue. Let's look at a few more combining forms. Crypto means hidden. Lyo is smooth, and a lot of times this is referring to different types of tissue. Necro means death, and typically when you see necro, it's referring to either cells or it could be referring to the body in general. Onco is tumor or mass, and rubido is rod-shaped or striated. In this section, we're going to look at some colors, and sometimes they're referring to body colors or tissue colors, or maybe on a cellular level. Examples here are cyano, which is blue. Sometimes we refer to someone who has cyanotic tissue, which tends to have a blue cast to it. Erythro is red. If we put erythro with cyte, then that means it's a red cell. Leuco is white. Melano is black. And xantho is yellow. Now let us look at some examples of prefixes. And these, of course, are at the beginning of the term. Dia can mean through or complete. Dis can mean something is painful, or it can mean it's abnormal, or difficult, or labored. Hyper can mean above, or it can mean excessive. Hypo is kind of the opposite of hyper in some instances. That could mean below, incomplete, deficient, or under. And pro is our last one, and that one means before.